Hello, everyone. We'll give it just another minute real fast before we get started. See if a few stragglers jump on. Sometimes a minute feels like forever.
Yes, but we do have a couple people coming in, and great. It's great to see you all here.
Yes. Okay, so I show a minute after, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, good morning and welcome to Peregrine Global Services webinar, Fostering Empathy, How Practicing Empathy Makes You a Better Leader. My name is Kayla Voss, and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth. And I'm joining you from Wyoming, where our home office is located. And I have with me Desiree Moore, Director of Marketing and Strategic Growth, who is joining us from Colorado. We are both very pleased that you are joining us today. The mission of Peregrine Global Services is to develop value-based leaders and impact the quality of higher education throughout the world. The joys of working from home. The story of Peregrine, we began as a leadership company, actually, by two friends who had over 20 years of leadership experience between government and industry. Then in 2009, Olin started the academic side of Peregrine as he was challenged to make a better product while he was serving on a reaccreditation committee for North Central University. From there, we've gone leaps and bounds. We've published books, started a foundation, and we truly believe we are making a difference around the world. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. Our presentation will be roughly 20 minutes, and we will have time at the end for questions and answers. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat, and then at the end, Desiree and I will read them, and we will answer any questions you have. We also have Sarah on here who is moderating for us, so if anything goes awry, she will jump in and help us out. So what is empathy? The definition of empathy encompasses a broad range of emotional states. The types of empathy include cognitive, emotional, and somatic empathy. You know the old saying, don't judge a man till you've walked a mile in his shoes? That's a great example of how empathy is and how empathy can enter a culture and be passed across generations, rightfully so, because wouldn't the world be a better place if we all took an understanding of how other people's feelings, motivations, and goals, and everything, I feel, would be a lot better if we were all just a little bit more empathetic. So how does empathy differ from sympathy? Every morning at 8:30, I have a call with my team to talk about their upcoming day and what they may need from myself or other team members to help them be successful. Now that most of us are working from home, it's a very important time of the day for us to connect and make sure that we're all on the same page. Last week, our morning huddle began, and I instantly could tell that Sarah was not herself and looked very stressed. After our meeting, I called her up and asked her how she was doing. I said, "You seem a little off today. What's up?" She then expressed some events that took place over the weekend and had her feelings that all pertained to her in her personal life, but left her very stressed and uneasy with the world. I could have easily said at that point, "I'm sorry, Sarah, that stinks. Anything from me regarding your workload today?" But I didn't. I took the next 15 minutes to listen to her, talk to her, and I placed myself in her shoes and took on how she must be feeling and connected with her from my life experiences on an emotional level. These 15 minutes were what changed her day from being unproductive and feeling hopeless all day to feeling like the world will be all right and that she had someone in her corner. I didn't solve her problems or take them away, but I was able to connect with her and let her know she wasn't alone. What I showed Sarah was empathy. Had I just said, "Man, that stinks," I would have shown her sympathy. There are 4 attributes to empathy: the ability to understand another person's perspective, react without judgment, recognize their emotions, and communicate your understanding of their feelings. With Sarah last week, I was not going through the same emotions as she was, but I could see why she was having those feelings and understand that those were her feelings and that they were real to her. I then put myself in her shoes and reacted to her feelings without judgment. Does your current workplace have a culture that fosters empathy? We're going to do Desiree is going to launch a poll, and we're going to see how you guys feel currently in your workplace. You have empathy. Do you guys have it cultured and it's good to go with a big yes? Are you working on it, or are you not quite there, but you want to figure out how to get that fostered into your culture? So if you want to launch that poll, we'll give everyone just a couple of minutes to answer that.
All right, these are interesting results. Okay, a couple more voting. We have 70% of you who have voted thus far, so that's great. We'll give it just a moment more for y'all to vote. Okay, well, so I will go ahead and close this poll now and then show you the results. So as you can see, 43% of you said yes, which is a great answer. We're so glad that you have a culture of empathy within your workplace. 29% were still said you're still working on it, which is fair. It is something, you know, there's always going to be development and room for growth and change. And 29% said not yet. But again, that is okay because you are here today. And that is the first step in is gaining some awareness so that you can begin to build a culture of empathy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to, there we go. Well, thank you, Kayla. That was a wonderful example about how you practice empathy with your team member, Sarah, and I'm glad that you were able to be there for her and step in her shoes. You know, so we talk about what is empathy and what's the difference between empathy and sympathy, but why do we need empathy? So empathy allows us to establish relationships and act compassionately. Experiencing another person's point of view, we become more other-centric, so less egocentric, which is very important. Now, some surveys do say, according to Psychology Today, that we are experiencing a decline in empathy. So it's very important that we be proactive and we don't allow that decline to continue, and we create an incline. And then also it helps us just build relationships, friendships, and we understand what it's like to live as others, and we can be more collaborative. We often understand empathy as a necessary characteristic for professions such as healthcare professionals, right? Therapists, social workers. And it isn't really until recently that the discussion of empathy as a much needed leadership characteristic has come into focus. This is because before, much of leadership was kind of thought of as managing, right? And if you don't know this, there is a difference between being a leader and being a manager. It is not the same thing. And it's important for leaders to practice empathy because when they take the time and energy to practice empathy, they understand what their employees need to succeed. They can more effectively build trust, strengthen relationships, and create a culture that is truly collaborative and more productive. So let's talk about having empathy. We all have empathy in varying levels, unless there is a unless there is a psychological disorder, such as some psychopaths, I think, that is the definition of a psychopath, is not having empathy for others, having zero empathy. But most of us, the majority of us, have varying levels of empathy. And that is because humans are intrinsically designed to be social creatures. Recent research into mirror neurons shows we need connection with others. Empathy helps us connect and with others But like other traits, it has evolved with kind of a selfish motive. We use others as a social antenna to help detect danger. From an evolutionary perspective, creating a mental model of other people's intent is critical. The arrival of an intruder or a stranger, for example, could be deadly. So developing sensitivity to the signals of others could be life-saving. Through time, we have evolved in such a way that we need connection, which is evident from the challenges presented given the isolation a lot of us have had endured due to the pandemic. I always like to say people connect to people. So building the skill of empathy, how do you do it? Well, researchers believe that people can choose to cultivate empathy. Just like with Kayla and Sarah in that example she gave you, she chose, right? She chose empathy over sympathy. It is a choice. And you may be asking yourself, well, you just said we're naturally inclined to have empathy. So why do we need to develop it? Well, it's that whole nurture nature thing, right? Some of us, we have varying levels of empathy. Some of us are more empathetic than others. And it's because of a variety of experiences, such as how we were raised, or maybe our exposure to individuals different than us, and much more. So now we're going to discuss some things that you can do today to further develop your ability to have empathy for others, and therefore be able to lead with empathy and create a culture of empathy within the workplace. Now, these all seem very simple, but it's about being intentional, making that choice every day. So I'm just going to share a couple of these with you. And the first one is to be curious. Curiosity did not kill the cat, okay, in this case. Curiosity is good. The people we work with are much more than just their role within their organization. By seeing people in a holistic manner and getting to know them, their passions, what makes them happy or sad, and how life outside of work is treating them, you can begin to learn a lot about the people around you and take the first step in developing empathy and being better at leading the people that you work with. I have a really good example that just popped into mind. So I kind of suffer from something called ultra independence, right? And it's just due to some factors of how I was raised. And I really kind of have to control things and I struggle to delegate because it's hard for me to trust others with tasks that I deem highly important. Now that is not good, right? That is something that I'm going to have to overcome. Well, so I have a one-on-one meeting with my supervisor every single week. And she really took the time to listen to how my experiences have shaped my reality, right? And my behavior, and work with me on understanding how that impacts my day-to-day work and come up with some really good ways to help me figure out how to trust others and delegate better. And I really do believe that is the epitome of being empathetic, and she was curious enough to learn about me and learn about my past in order to make those moves going forward. The next one is stepping out of your comfort zone. Allow yourself to fail or be humbled. Sometimes when we're in the position of a leader, we're spending more time just leading, right? We're working with others, but we're not necessarily working on some of those things that our team members are, those tasks. Do things that make you step outside of your comfort zone so that you can fail or be humbled. And that way, you also may have the need to reach out for support. Because when you need to reach out for support, then you can better support the others, those that need support from you. Also, ask for feedback and be open to it. That is the first step in creating a culture of feedback. We cannot develop and grow our empathy or anything without some self awareness. And so, asking for feedback, being open to that is just so important. The next one is to be conscious of your biases and reflect on those before forming judgments. We all have biases, and there is specific training out there for understanding your implicit biases. I absolutely recommend thinking about your biases, thinking about why you react or judge, or maybe make assumptions, and really digging into those and understanding them and being conscious of them as you interact with others and make decisions. And then take a walk in another person's shoes. I always say seek information for understanding, not to confirm your biases. We all are very much aware of confirmation bias and just how dangerous that tunnel vision can be. And this is something I'm very passionate about. I deliberately have conversations that are difficult with other people, people with viewpoints and experiences that are different than mine, because it brings about understanding. If I only interacted with people who are exactly like me, then I'm really jeopardizing my own ability to develop empathy. So continue to interact, have those difficult conversations, but of course do so in a tactful and gracious way. And this one is not something you necessarily practice in the workplace, but I think it's a great tip, and that is to read more. When you read, especially when you read fiction, you are taking a walk in the shoes of other people. That is exactly what you're doing. There's been a lot of literature out there, specifically, I'm a big fan of Harry Potter, about children and how reading the Harry Potter series helps children develop empathy, because the books cover these interactions between people from different groups. And yeah, so read, because it really does. And if you're not into fiction, if you really like nonfiction, pick up a memoir or maybe an autobiography. Those are great ways to step into another person's shoes. Now, there is a downside to being empathetic. I mean, empathy is such a wonderful skill. It's a wonderful trait, characteristic that you could have. However, when you're really good at it, it can be, I don't know, tiring. Uh, when we're constantly putting ourselves in the shoes of others, and we have roles such as maybe journalists or therapists or first responders, and those people are in a less than positive state, and we're putting ourselves in their shoes over and over again, it can cause us to start feeling depressed or anxious. And so for this, I just recommend taking care of yourself, participating in self-care. There are trainings out there for how to care for the caregiver. And if you're one of those people who's already really empathetic and find yourself in this situation where you are just completely emotionally depleted after a day of interacting with others because you're so good at putting yourself in those shoes, I would highly recommend investing in ways that you can still do that, still be empathetic, but not take on the burden and in such a way that it impacts your emotional and mental health. And just like with any skill, empathy is a soft skill. We must practice, practice, practice. It is one we practice when we're conscious of those things. When we say, oh, is this an opportunity for me to be curious about that coworker, right? To ask them questions about their life, to ask them what they're passionate about. Is this an opportunity for me to understand another person's viewpoint by having a respectful but difficult conversation? Keep doing those things because they will allow you to keep practicing. And now we're going to share some of the things that we do at Peregrine to help you develop your soft skills or ability to lead through emotional intelligence. And I'm going to turn it back over to Kayla.
Awesome. Thanks, Desiree. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about our leading edge learning modules. We have some of them built directly on emotional intelligence, and then we have some others that also I'll touch on just a little bit. And at the end, we are actually going to offer you a free module. So stay tuned for that, and I'll kind of explain them as we go along and lead you up to the suspense of what you get for free. So our leading edge learning modules are designed, we've developed and designed and produced over 800 plus hours of online content. Like I said, some of them are emotional intelligence specific, and then there's a wide variety of them. They all align with the NACE 8 workplace key competencies. So if you're familiar with that, you can read those on the screen, but they all align with different pieces of that puzzle that encompass those key workplace competencies. So 4 of the modules directly support emotional intelligence. We have one on mental toughness and resilience, leading with emotional and social intelligence, managing personal energy, and our 4th module on social awareness and emotional management in relationship is still in development, and we should have that one completed within the next few months, but the other 3 are available for purchase. So there's many ways to use these modules to help you grow the culture of empathy within your workplace or build emotional intelligence within your students as you prepare them for the workforce. These modules and others will help develop leadership skills, competencies, become effective leaders, and improve their supervisor and managerial effectiveness. These modules will also provide customer service training and provide productivity and team effectiveness. So like I said, we have a wide variety of different modules and topics. All of the modules are engaging and interactive for the learner. We have designed them to include a combination of learning styles through video, audio, reading, text, and activities along the way to help the students and learners stay engaged, as well as a multimedia concept to reinforce the concepts that they've learned as they go through the modules. The modules are broken into different sections and topics with very easy navigation, which tracks where the learner is at within the module for quick access when they return. Because these modules, a lot of these modules are very in-depth and encompass a lot of hours, so they're not designed to be completed in one setting, usually over a period of time. The learners also have access to these modules for 2 years to allow them to refer back to their learnings. So as they are working through real life situations, they may come across something and remember it from their module and want a little refresher. So it does allow them to go access that for up to 2 years. So the mental toughness module is just that. It's designed to help you provide mental toughness and resilience on a personal level, to help you become self-aware, and allows the individual and learner who's going through this module to become a better manager and also build their teams. The next one, leading with emotional and social intelligence, it gets into a higher level of emotional intelligence and how to balance your mental and emotional resilience, which positively impacts your employees' performances and their quality of work along with yours. It provides you with tools to help build yourself and build your team's emotional intelligence. The final completed module is designed around managing your personal energy and how it can positively affect your workflow, help you see how taking care of your people is just as important as taking care of business. This module will help you manage the high demands of the world around us and even provide you strategies to face these interruptions head on. So I'm going to turn it back over to Desiree, and she's going to talk a little bit about soft skills and how we have a tool that will help you assess those soft skills.
Thank you, Kayla, so much. Those leading edge learning modules are just absolutely fantastic. And I am so grateful that I have been able to go through several of them and learn from them. It's just one of the ways that a tool that you can put in your toolbox to help you develop those skills that you find are essential for either students or employees. But, with developing skills, sometimes it's difficult to know where we should spend our energy, right? And it would be really great if we had a way to figure out objectively where we're at, because a self-assessment isn't exactly objective. Well, Peregrine has developed a value skills to help people with just that. It's a 360-degree evaluation process that directly measures proficiency levels of essential workplace competencies. So the evaluation uses the perspective of peers, supervisors, advisors, mentors, colleagues, actually anybody that that person has a close working relationship with. It could even be customers and clients. And what it does is it takes the feedback from all of those individuals, and those individuals are provide that feedback in an online format that allows them to do so in an objective and accurate way. So what is really neat about this particular assessment is that it is highly flexible and customizable. There are over 200 soft skills for you to choose from, depending on your goals or what is important to your profession, organization, or the specific discipline that you teach. Let's say you wanted to use this for student development, because I know we do have members from higher education and business and industry on this webinar today. You can also write and develop your own skills and rubrics and add them to your assessment, which is quite handy. And I do want to mention that there are 200 soft skills, but you're not at it alone. You don't have to sift through all those soft skills to figure it out. We actually lend the expertise of our team to help you develop an instrument that meets your specific objectives and goals. Now, I mentioned that the assessment is objective. How do you objectively measure soft skills, you ask? Well, every soft skill is actually tied to a behavior instead of the person, right? So instead of saying, how does Kayla do in critical thinking and problem solving? I think she's good, right? And I rate her as good. Um, it actually asked me a behavior. So here's an example. You can see for critical thinking and problem solving, a person would rate their employee or coworker as excellent or give them a 4 on the Likert scale if they had seen them involving others in brainstorming or that they seek alternative viewpoints to explore possible courses of actions. So every rubric comes with a statement, a behavior, and a scaling. And that way we can get the most accurate and objective measure of that person's soft skill possible. And I really enjoy data. I like data because it allows me to understand where I am and where I want to be, or where a group of people are and where they should be, or how I could help them get there. And so value skills comes with comprehensive reports that on the individual and group level that allow you to understand people's skills. So here you'll see in this particular example that the participant was rated by her evaluators or his evaluators as being very high in curiosity and also very high in valuing diversity, which is really interesting because those two kind of go hand in hand. Also high in global awareness. Again, kind of go hand in hand. And then we can see the areas that that person is a little bit weaker in. And also you will see this blue line shows the participant's average score, which might make it easy to highlight relative strengths and areas for improvement. Also, this is another look at the participant report. You will see here at the top, you'll see a 4 for self-score, a 3.8 for evaluator average, and a 4.15 for group average. And I'm going to explain for just a moment what that means. So the 4 for self-score, that is how the person ranked themselves in emotional intelligence, okay? And then when we took the average of their evaluators, because that is how the results from Evalu Skills come across to keep the confidentiality of the evaluators confidential, the average evaluator score was a 3.8. Now that shows that the person being evaluated might have a slight gap, right? And how they perceive themselves versus how others perceive their ability to have emotional intelligence. And then the group average is a 4.15. So as a group, part of that cohort, whether it's a group of employees or students, they're quite high in emotional intelligence. And this person, according to their evaluator scores, ranks a little bit lower. So it might be an area that that person wants to concentrate on developing. Also, you'll see here the group average. We do have comprehensive group reporting that allows you to see where a group of people may be weak or strong. And you can conduct longitudinal analysis to see growth over time if you implement new activities such as our leading edge learning modules, if you do a pre-assessment and then a post-assessment, which is really kind of a cool way to do it. And then we have our action plan. And I think this is such a huge part of Evalu Skills because you may have your scores, you may say, okay, I'm a little weak in emotional intelligence, but what do I do? And with the action plan, you create a plan for mitigating those weaknesses, a timeline and a person to keep you accountable. This keeps you on track, this puts it in writing, it makes it just so much more real and gives you some action items to move forward with. So now that we've talked about Evalu Skills, we've talked about leading edge learning, and we've educated you just a little bit on empathy and how to develop empathy and some things that you can take advantage of today. I have another thing you could take advantage of today completely at no cost, and that is our leadership communications module. Communications is an essential part of developing empathy. We have to be able to listen and communicate well in order to do so. And so throughout this module, you see the learning outcomes here. You'll be able to understand leadership communications, understand what kind of communication medium is best in different kinds of situations, understand how to give and receive feedback. Again, one of the tips that we shared for developing empathy, know the different modes of communication, how to prepare and deliver effective presentations, and understand how to overcome barriers to communication and employ active listening. And we're going to give that to you free of charge. And I'll share with you how, because we're going to launch another poll asking you what you need from us. So if you're interested in the leadership communications module, you can answer the poll and we'll reach out to you with a personalized email with a code to access the leadership communications module. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that now. All right, so just take a moment and tell us what you need from us. And it's more than just the leadership communications module. Maybe you would like a call to discuss some leadership and employee development solutions, or an email with more information about solutions, or notification of upcoming webinars. We do hold webinars on a monthly basis. All right, great. I'm glad a lot of you are interested in the leadership communication module. I just recently took it and very much enjoyed it. Had some great practical tips that you can use today to improve your communication as a leader. All right, we'll just wait for everybody to vote. Okay, just a moment more. Okay, great. I'm just going to leave it up for 10 more seconds and then I'll go ahead and take it down. So just let us know what you need from us. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and we're going to move on to questions. All right, so questions. Let's see
Doesn't
if
look
we
like
have
we
any.
have any now yet. You can either type them or you can unmute yourself and ask them as well.
I think they have to raise their hand and we'll unmute them. All right, and maybe it's just because we have done such an excellent job delivering this webinar and we've been very comprehensive that they don't have any
We have
questions.
a question.
Oh, we do?
Yep. Okay, it looks like you are unmuted, Dr. Is it Ashra?
Yeah, hello, miss. It's Dr. Usha Rekha.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, I can't poll. I don't know why.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
unable to poll. Yeah.
Okay.
What would I can write down what you need from us and then make sure I get that to you?
Yeah, that is the first one I want, first option I want to select.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, we'll make sure to get that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or issues polling and you'd like us to send it to you? Looks
All right.
like we're done.
Well, here is our contact information. I'll leave that up just for a moment. You will be receiving an email from Kayla or I today, but I just wanted to put this out there in case you would like to contact us. We are always available to talk on the phone within business hours, and you can always email us and even mail us if you would like to. But thank you so much for joining us during this webinar, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you all. Have a good day.